Hello, if you don't know me, I'm Sydney, and this is my Zenith project. Okay, so for my Zenith project, I made a cinematography portfolio and a video essay, and they were both horror movie related. So I did this because I love writing essays. I don't know why. And then I also did a cinematography portfolio for my production piece. I did that because I was in design last year. For my explorations project, I did mise en scène, which is sort of like cinematography, and then I switched to film because of that project, so it's a good full circle moment. My goals with this project was for the cinematography portfolio to create well-composed shots, and for the video essay to create something that's informative but also interesting and doesn't lull you to sleep. Okay, this was my project calendar. When I saw this at first, and when I first created it, I was super worried I wasn't going to be able to finish, but I stayed on track, and here we are. Okay, so first I had to write the actual essay, which meant I had to watch a lot of movies, and these are the movies I watched. The following week, I created all my storyboards for my cinematography portfolio and compiled footage for the video essay. So the next time I finished my video essay and I made cookies for my cinematography portfolio. And if you don't know, cookies are things that go with lighting. They make cool shapes out of shadows like this. Mine didn't end up working because I had to use like my iPhone flashlight as my light, but they were cool to make. Then I filmed my cinematography portfolio, which consisted of me covering lights in my house with red cellophane and employing my family to act in it, which worked out better than I anticipated. And then I had to just cut everything up and turn it in, and that was the majority of my project. Here is the final product of the video essay. Horror is an interesting genre in the film world. Unfortunately, throughout film history, horror hasn't really been taken seriously, reduced down to movies with jump scares, with very few exceptions. However, if you look closer, it can be the source of some of the most visually interesting films. During the past 5 years, there has been a renaissance for horror films, where directors like Jordan Peele and Ari Aster are setting the bar for creating horror films that are not only terrifying, but push visual boundaries. Inspired by horror films like Suspiria and Silence of the Lambs, modern horror relies less on jump scares. Instead, these movies focus more on the unsettling ideas that are presented, allowing for more visual interest and creativity. In order to create this desired effect, there are 3 essential elements to create a horror film: color, lighting, and composition. First and foremost, there's color. Color plays an essential role in horror, connecting to the audience through the ambiance that the colors set. Color, when paired with story, is one of the most effective ways to subconsciously connect with the audience. For example, reds represent violence and danger, pale greens can reflect a sickly feeling, and blues create an eerie and cold atmosphere. Color in horror, like in any film, has the ability to represent an idea or create a feeling. The first movie that pops into my head when I think of color, just in general, is Suspiria. Dario Argento's Suspiria is undeniably red. So red, in fact, that the color itself is a part of the plot. Red is one of the most emotionally reactive colors, and it creates some of the strongest feelings from people. In Suspiria, red represents an undeniable visual stand-in for evil that surrounds the protagonist, and by drowning the film in red, it makes it feel as though evil is inescapable. Another incredible example of color in horror is 2019's MIDSOMMAR. Director Ari Aster and director of photography Powell Porzeski brought horror into Technicolor daylight. In this film, rather than color acting as a plot point, it acts as a reminder of the contrast between the visuals and the story of the film. This contrast offers an almost dreamlike state, bringing an unsettling air to the film. With both of these movies, we see color as an integral piece in the horror itself, creating films that are visually challenging. Just as important as color in any horror film is lighting. Lighting in horror seems fairly straightforward. Make sure it's dark and that you can see the monsters. However, there is a lot of room for experimentation in lighting, where the different types of lighting and levels of light can create more extreme moods that reflect the horrors that you're trying to show. In Hereditary, the common dark lighting of horror is taken to the extreme. It submerges the majority of the film into almost complete darkness. This darkness forces the viewer to search in the shadows, making them unsure if what they're seeing is actually on screen or not. This plays off people's natural fear of the unknown and the dark, creating an unforgettable visual style for the film. While Hereditary uses levels of light to create horror, Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse plays with hard lighting and different angles of lighting. Many of the most terrifying shots are either lit from beneath the characters or overexposed. Coupled with the fact that the film is in black and white, the over and underexposure of the lighting creates an ominous feeling. The lighting, more often than not, is unnatural and creates a style that turns the characters into monsters over the course of the film. Lighting overall has a surprising impact on horror films, and it helps create the tone and overall visual style for the film. However, if we're talking about the most important piece of horror films, shot composition helps visually deliver any message. After all, how can you make a scary movie without things looking scary? Color and lights can only take you so far, but what's composed in the shot is often what brings the most feelings of fear. Like with lighting, horror films have a lot of creative room for composing shots, because their main goal is to make the audience scared. The Babadook is fantastic for its shot composition. Director Jennifer Kent isolates her protagonist from the other characters for the majority of the film. She does this to drive home the message of the protagonist's depression. By isolating a character, it creates the feeling that the viewer is also isolated, the only person against the horrifying Babadook. On the other hand, there is The Witch. This movie has a very interesting style for composition because rather than going for a typical claustrophobic feel that many horror films go for, The Witch is composed mainly with wide, agoraphobic shots. Many of the most memorable shots are extreme wide shots, depicting the menacing forest towering over the Pilgrim family's small farm. By focusing on wide shots, the film itself seems bigger than it actually is, becoming both eerie and intimidating. And finally, there is Silence of the Lambs. While it's an incredible film on its own, Silence of the Lambs contains some of the most interestingly composed shots. Director of photography Tak Fujimoto revolutionized the point of view shot with this film, something that dragged the viewer into the world. From the very beginning, when Clarice meets Hannibal, Clarice follows more traditional rules of looking past the camera. Meanwhile, Hannibal looks directly into the camera and straight at the viewer, something that draws you into the screen. Even further in the movie, the viewer takes the perspective of Buffalo Bill in his basement, forcing the viewer to become part of this horrifyingly realistic depiction of a serial killer. Shot composition makes or breaks a horror film. When done correctly, it can create some of the most anxiety-inducing visuals that you have ever seen. In horror, we've got color, we've got lighting, and last but certainly not least, we've got shot composition. These three elements work together to create films that both haunt your dreams and are visually stunning. While they're often not taken as seriously as other genres of film, their impact on the industry is undeniable. Horror is at the forefront of garnering the strongest emotional reaction from viewers, some of them becoming essential to the advancement of film. And in recent years, horror has taken leaps and bounds forward in terms of advancing new visual styles. So go find a horror movie to watch and see if you can be scared and amazed at the exact same time. And here is the final cinematography portfolio. Okay, yeah, those were both my Zenith projects. Um, what I really liked about this project was being able to use what I learned in design and film, which don't really seem like they go together, but my past in design and helped me a lot with like composing shots and learning how to do that. I really enjoyed making this product. It was challenging. It was fun. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope I didn't take up too much of your time. Have a nice day.